Good afternoon and welcome to today's Adweek webinar on improving your digital campaign performance, 5 trends to sharpen your media strategy. I'm Stuart File, Custom Publishing Director of Adweek Magazine and your host for today's event. Before we begin, I'd just like to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. First off, you will be able to download a copy of today's presentation using the On24 tools. You will also receive a link afterwards letting you know where you can go to get the presentation, as well as a recording of today's webinar, so that if you wish to hear it on demand. Secondly, if you have questions during today's event, please use the Q&A tool, also part of On24, and we will have a Q&A time after the formal presentation. The presentation itself will go for about 30 minutes, and again, we'll have time for Q&A afterwards. So please submit your questions during the presentation, and we'll answer them then. Now let me introduce today's speakers to you. Yosha Ulrich-Sturmat, who is VP of Product Marketing at Neustar. And Yosha is a proven business leader with some 17 years of global experience in online advertising, digital media, and emerging technologies. And he's be joined by Starla West, Digital Media Manager at Sprint, where she oversees all interactive paid media programs, including social, search, display, and video. That's across all platforms, desktop, mobile, gaming consoles, connected to devices, and probably anything else you can imagine. So let's get started, and Yosha, let me pass this over to you.
Thank you, Stuart, and thanks everybody for attending. I just wanted to do a quick walkthrough of the agenda. And so what today we're going to go over are just a couple of slides on the key marketers' challenges as we see it today. And then the bulk of our presentation is going to focus on the review of the 2014 Q2 Media Intelligence Report, covering topics around cost, reach efficiency, user quality, and funnel attribution findings that we have. I will then pass over the presentation to Starla, and then come back to wrap up with some key takeaways and quickly move into the Q&A session. So with that, why don't we get started? So really in 2013 was sort of the tipping point for digital, and IAB told us that for the first time marketers were spending more on digital than on broadcast, and that's across mobile, social, video, and display. If you look at 2014, eMarketer, for example, is validating that by predicting that digital channels are the only channels that will grow compared to 2013, and as a matter of fact will eclipse $50 billion in spend for the first time. So the momentum for digital continues, and we see the same growth in terms of largest growth in a decade, with 28% of the spend allocated to digital channels. And so for marketers, this growth means more opportunity to reach consumers in a personalized dialogue. But when you look at what is required to do that, eMarketer also found that over half of the marketers are struggling to make use of the data that is being gathered through the digital channels. And so while brands are embracing the digital channel, what is also interesting, as I said, is that we're struggling with this overwhelming amount of data, and with the emergence of mobile and tablets, it becomes even more important to connect the user across those channels and devices and screens, and be able to consistently target basically the prospects and the customers. And so if you look at really that challenge, as I alluded to, what makes it very difficult is not only the amount of data, and a very complex ecosystem. If you think about the channels that a marketer has to deal with, it's unbelievable. I mean, Facebook just was founded in 2004, for example. So if you look at 10 years ago, the media mix that a marketer has to deal with is astounding. Coupled with that is also the rapid change of consumer data that we see. For example, 75 million U.S. consumers change phone carriers on an annual basis, or 45 million people change phone numbers, and 2.1 million people change their names. So as marketers are trying to target consistently, the challenge of knowing who your customer and who your prospects are is difficult because of the amount of change. And then coupled with that, the amount of public data that is available to verify all of these data points is decreasing dramatically, as the middle graphic illustrates. From 2000 to 2013, it has gone from 78 to 30%. And again, as I said, as the explosion of channels and the explosion of screens continues, and the desire for a marketer to consistently target that consumer across those, both the channels and the devices, really understanding who that consumer and prospect is, and getting one view of that individual is becoming tougher and tougher. And so as budgets increase, we also need to help marketers connect siloed data across offline and online channels. We got to help them understand who the customers and prospects are, and effectively optimize the media mix. And so one of the things that we have sort of built here is Neustar launched a centralized marketing solution called PlatformOne, and at the core of it is our dynamic identity. And that is based, and why do I call it dynamic, and why is it a identity methodology? Because it is based on authoritative offline data and data that are linked, such as physical addresses and phone numbers, and all in a privacy-compliant manner. And those are corroborated daily with over 4 to 5 billion transactions on a daily basis. And so that lays the foundation for us to wrap around two solutions that marketers have. On one end, it's customer intelligence, the ability to identify, verify, and segment the customers, but ultimately just find out who the best and who my customers and prospects are. And then on the other hand, wrap around media intelligence, which is really the ability to get real-time insights on the performance of my digital marketing campaigns. And we wrap that together to easily activate across those two problem areas and problem sets to drive two fundamental things that marketers want to achieve, which is grow reach, drive engagement, and ultimately increase sales. And so everything that you're going to see today is data coming out of this platform across our customer base. But we believe that without the ability to sort of utilize and leverage this identity, decisions are really hard to come by. But let's get into the meat of this webinar, which is to go over the latest findings of the Media Intelligence Report. And again, we're going to talk about cost and customer engagement and reach by channel, as well as how digital channels perform across all customer touch points using multi-touch attribution. Starla is going to talk about offline CRM data performance and third-party audience performances across verticals. The call out here is that this data is based on about over 220 billion digital events, which represents a significant amount of data for us to be able to give you these insights. So let's get into the first index, and the first index is what we call the cost index. And the cost index is a channel's ability to drive impressions, clicks, and conversions at the lowest cost. Fundamentally, you could think of it where you could buy media at the least amount of cost. The index, or the channel cost, is made up of the following components. It includes CPM, cost per thousand, CPC, cost per click, and CPA, cost per action. And what you see here is that values below the green line effectively are values that are below the average of the index across those four channels. So the call out that you see here, and it's a continued trend from the first quarter in 2014, is that social continues to be the best cost-efficient channel, indexing about 70% below the industry average, and actually continuing to show a decline in that, or if you will, an increase in that cost efficiency of 32%. And ultimately, we believe that continued trend comes from the growing and efficient use of DSPs to access social impressions on exchanges. On the other hand, on the network side, we see a continued increase in cost, and we believe that is also a continued trend from Q1, where private exchanges and programmatic buying are shifting some of their buy to premium inventory. And we also believe that the World Cup, which occurred in Q2, saw a lot of marketers investing in contextual buying, premium, sort of more premium-related content. It included more video placement, which, as we know, are several times more expensive than display ads, and were used really to drive brand awareness. And so that, coupled with the growth of online TV and the increased use of video ads outside of sort of specialized video networks, drove up the overall cost of advertising on networks. The next index that we want to talk about today, is the reach efficiency index. And this index indicates which channels perform better or are more effective at delivering new and exclusive users that can only be found on those channels and no other channels. And we couple that and factor in also the cost per unique user. Again, when I said exclusive users, understand that our platform provides a deduplicated view of unique users across channels and ad servers. And so we do have the ability to see exclusive reach, if you will, by channel. And so here again, we see that social continues to drastically outperform the indexed average. Again, the green line here indicates the average for that channel, and so anything below is below the average. Social, if you will, in Q2 was the only channel that sort of exceeded that index, and it had a huge spike. Now, the one thing that we do want to caution here, and we've always seen social be very, very good at driving exclusive users, But one thing we do want to sort of caution for this data is that it could be a little bit skewed as cookies are reset, as users access social channels via multiple screens, and also the use of and the increased use of private browsing. But this actually highlights sort of the increase or the added urgency for the industry, and probably one of the biggest challenges, which is how do we connect the dots not only across channels, but how do we connect the dots across devices, and ultimately potentially replacing cookies with a more stable identifier. And so this reach index, or the reach efficiency index, is valuable, but given sort of this continued and just the continued increased growth in mobile and in tablet, and depending on who you read, tablets and mobile are the same, we really recommend that we pay more attention to the next index, which is the user quality index, not just sort of a reach efficiency index. And that user quality index, which is the next slide that I've put up, is really the next step beyond reach efficiency, as I said. It looks at the channel's ability to deliver quality users. How do we define quality users? Quality users are people who can be reached more than once, and because of that become much more a consistent target for marketers to see, because if folks reset their cookies or whatever behavior happens, and the marketer doesn't see that same cookie on multiple channels, then it consistently targeting to them becomes quite difficult. And again, what we see here is that social and exchanges perform above the indexed average on user quality. Interestingly, with exchanges outperforming social by 66%, which is actually quite interesting that trend is continuing. Again, social continues to improve quarter over quarter, and that is, we saw just a huge increase, or quite a large increase in impression volume that was served, and the frequency that can be delivered against those users because of the high engagement. But the exchanges while the exchanges decreased a little bit, I think it still is important to call out that this is a continued trend that we see from Q1. And this probably means a continued sort of the emergence of private exchanges. We saw that starting in the last quarter, and coupled that with the use of CRM data, which Starla will talk about in her section. You sort of start seeing that the ability of exchanges to deliver high-quality users as we also factor in the emergence of private exchanges. And so the next and last sort of index that I want to touch on is the funnel attribution index. And this is fundamentally a look at which channels are undervalued in a last touch model. And as we think about, and the marketer thinks about the purchase funnel, and we think about the upper funnel and how channels can impact and have great influence in the upper channel in driving brand awareness, the funnel attribution provides a much more granular and realistic look at all the customer touch points. And it really provides insights into who had influence in the upper funnel and then ultimately didn't receive credit. And so what we continue to see here is that that every channel in Q2 is getting more effective at what it does. And so the trends that we started seeing emerging in Q1 continue to be seen in Q2. And social and networks increase their presence in the upper funnel, as you can see here. And so actually validating sort of a continued trend that we probably saw mid-year last year in terms of using social channels and possibly networks to drive brand awareness. And especially social continues to drive that effect, if you will. And why did networks go up? We believe that we saw a lot more increase of video in Q2, and as we know, video is a strong awareness vehicle. It drives great user engagement and probably delivers better impact as the same users are targeted further down the funnel. And so, again, all sort of channels are becoming more efficient at delivering what they are supposed to deliver. And so with that, my sort of section is concluded. I've gone over the indices, and I will sort of push the next screen to Starla and let her take it from there, and then I'll come back to wrap it up, and then we can go into the Q&A session.
Thanks so much, Yosha. So let's just jump right in and keep the momentum going here. This chart depicts what channels advertisers are placing the most weight in, as well as the actions taken by channel type, as defined by display, social, video, and mobile. As you can see, the bulk of impressions and actions are still dominated by the display category, which garnered 63% of the total impressions and 89% of the total actions. Social, however, is attracting a significant portion of ad spend in Q2 across the client base, accounting for 35% of impressions. Now, as Yosha showed earlier, social is getting underrepresented in terms of last touch attribution, so that's why you see them garnering about 10% of actions. But because social really is a significant contributor to upper funnel and also sales assists, we know that social is an important part of the mix. And this is the type of analysis and data that has changed how we optimize here at Sprint across partners to drive greater results. We've also seen a lot of success driving incremental reach and efficiency, leveraging social platforms just from our own data analysis. Now, while video and mobile appear to be a smaller piece of the pie within this chart, that's more a result of partner selection than a shift away from these channels. Advertisers are spending less money on pure play video and mobile networks and more toward networks and partners that offer a multi-channel approach. So when you look at this chart, video and mobile are really appearing in the display section as part of a shift into this idea that video and mobile are just part of your everyday business, not necessarily a need to go into pure play mobile and video network providers. This was driven very much by events like World Cup, where advertisers pressed into premium placements on networks that could target soccer fans against World Cup content, premium content across all channels. Moving on. This is what Yosha indicated we were going to talk about in my section, which is using CRM data, so first-party customer data, to drive online results. And leveraging this kind of data as a digital targeting mechanism drives significant results across a variety of verticals, including entertainment, retail, and telco. As we all know, it's easier to develop your existing base versus acquiring new customers, and these examples really prove that out. You can see that across a wide range of clients and industries, we saw huge lifts according to versus advertising norms. 19% for telco, 55 times for retail, and 98 times for entertainment. Not only can you use your first-party customer data to target existing customers, but you can also purchase audiences that are similar in profile to your highest quality customers. This strategy is also a contributing factor in the lifts you see here. From personal experience, this is a great performing tactic, and we had a lot of success from it, but volumes can be low, so just a bit of a cautionary tale. Match rates can vary dramatically between 10 to 30%. So to ensure you have a large enough impressions pool, you need to make sure that you have a pretty substantial customer file that you upload into the DMP. This, of course, will vary by advertiser, target audience, and match rate. This next slide really shows, again, how conversions can increase by leveraging your first-party data. This is an example of how parsing out your CRM files into narrower targeting segments can significantly improve conversions versus broader targeting. This entertainment client showed enormous lifts ranging from 77% to 150% versus their average within their top customer segment. Additionally, audience segmentation garnered this client overall a 16% increase in total conversions over the course of the quarter, which is very significant. Again, this drives home the power of using the data advertisers have at their disposal to maximize the efficiency of their paid media efforts. Another way you can use data out of these new tool sets that are coming out is the ability to look at your responders and to go out and find attributes of those top responders and find more people like it. So this is what this actually demonstrates. In this example, an education client was able to lift performance 26 times the average by targeting key attributes such as age, income, credit score, and education. So I love this next slide because it's the age-old question about whether digital marketers should optimize the click or the view-through. And by looking at the data and seeing how it can convert for you and how it performs for you, advertisers are better informed about how to make these kinds of decisions. This healthcare client data demonstrates how sales volume increases dramatically, 30 times the average when optimizing towards view-through conversion versus click-through conversion. We can now see the data differences among these audiences determine what the right answer is for individual brands. In the case of this client, there's a clear difference between audience attributes among clickers versus view-through audiences. So even digging deeper into the data about who's clicking and who's converting via view-through. In this case, view-through audiences were more attractive for this advertiser, being higher income, younger, multilingual, and fans of wellness products. Again, being able to leverage this data and see it very clearly allows advertisers to understand differences and maximize their spend across a variety of data points. So now I'll turn it back to Yosha, who will summarize all the great learnings we've just shared with you.
Thank you so much, Starla. So to summarize, I think what we've found, what we've talked about today is that marketers are continuing to increase the use of DSPs, and DSPs are also becoming a little more specialized, if you will, across mobile and video. And the increase of social exchanges of networks used by DSPs, we believe, has also further driven down the cost for social. Again, social networks, and think of this as Facebook's, Twitter, those kinds of inventory sources continue to improve their reach, their ability to reach customers and also find high-quality users. We also are seeing that mobile and video, not only are the analysts continuing to talk about the year of mobile, the increased spend, but it is really becoming now normal buys that aren't really exclusive or not only tied to mobile and video networks. And then Starla talked about the amazing uplift that we see from leveraging CRM data, and especially across the telco, retail, and entertainment verticals, outperforming 19 and 98 from 19 to 98x above the average there. And then again, using that to target top-performing third-party audiences as well, drove up conversion rates, 12% in 12x in health, 12x in telco, and 26x in education. And so those are the key takeaways, the insights from the Media Intelligence Report, the great insights from Starla. And with that, I think we want to open it up for questions. And Stuart, I think I'm going to hand it back to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Yosha, and thanks, Starla. Very, very interesting. And we've gotten a bunch of questions in from the audience. I just want to remind people that as we are now entering our Q&A part, if you do have questions, please use the Q&A tool on On24, and your questions will make it our way, and hopefully we will have time to answer all of them. Yosha, I wanted to start off with one question that we seem to be getting from a number of people out there, and I think this goes back to some of the indexes that you were using and where you're comparing social, portal, network, and exchange. And I think some people might have been a bit confused as to how you define each of those segments. In other words, so maybe you could provide a definition of each and maybe an example or two that might give people some more solid ideas as to exactly what you're referring to and how you define them.
Absolutely. So social, as I think just tried to do, I think for us social are directly on Facebook, on the exchange partners that Facebook has, and sort of that, and Twitter, and those are the sources of inventory where we see campaigns running. Exchanges, I would say, think of them as AppNexus is an example that comes to mind, and portals for us are Yahoo, MSN, and keep in mind that we can sort of run and show the comparison across a Yahoo homepage takeover versus an MSN versus an ad network buy or a buy on an exchange on AppNexus. So I hope that answers the question.
Great. And I mean, I know we were getting another couple here in which some people were asking, because those of us who are involved in this industry tend to use acronyms and what a DSP is, and of course that's a demand-side platform, and I don't know if you want to just take 10 seconds and just give a quick how you're defining that.
Sure. So a DSP is used by advertisers and agencies to just basically optimize the buys across a bunch of inventory sources. It could be completely analogous to an SSP or a supply side platform where publishers use those platforms, OpenX, Rubicon, those kinds of players to effectively optimize the use, or as publishers can't sell the inventory either via direct sales if they're too small or they haven't sold everything out, they put their inventory into exchanges, and that's now where also a lot of the private exchanges are coming up, where some of the more premium or bigger publishers are trying to sort of take that inventory back and trying to keep especially ad networks out of buying on exchanges. And so a DSP makes it easier for an advertiser to navigate all the various exchanges and ad networks, and they just can sort of handle that on behalf of the advertiser, and the advertiser can simply say, I want to buy, Starla talked about attributes, I want to buy attributes at a certain price point, go and find them, and they, in a very simplistic way, automate that or handle that on behalf of the advertiser.
Just to jump in a little bit, it's a great way for advertisers to buy specific audiences at scale, whereas if you go partner by partner, that's more difficult, and it also allows you a lot of control over your pricing because you can decide how valuable your audience is to you and bid accordingly.
That's right.
Okay, well, it looks like we're getting a few questions here, which is sort of, again, another few similar ones. And this is really about coverage of CRM data. And I'm wondering if you might want to touch on here, how CRM data, how you're using your offline data to target your online audience, and what are maybe some additional examples of how CRM data can be leveraged. Again, in terms of targeting, whether it's overall, whether it's individuals, groups, or whether it's singular individuals, et cetera.
Who do you want
Do you want me to take that, Yosha?
Sure, you can. I can jump in. Go ahead.
Okay. So using CRM data, it's basically being able to upload your customer data files into what's called a safe haven environment, and allowing a cookie match provider, such as a Datalogix or a LiveRamp, to go out and find cookies to match those customer files to cookies. So then you can go out and buy those cookies. You can buy based on segment. Again, based on individuals, that's going to be difficult because it's like finding a needle in a haystack when you go out and try to find one cookie out in the web. That's going to be difficult. But you want to find, in order to get scale also, you want to find a group of customer segments that look similar to one another that are attractive for you to go out and either upsell or find people like them.
No, that's perfect. I think we use it, we just to add, if you've heard terms like lookalike modeling and things like that, that's where we can, we've seen now for over a year just dramatic improvement of doing lookalike modeling and doing targeting based off of first-party or CRM data versus off of third-party data sources. And the performance Starla talked about, taking specific attributes and finding people with the same propensities just drives massive improvement thresholds.
In fact, when we've explored this tactic, it costs more to do it. So your bidding rates in order to get those specific cookies that you want to buy is going to be more expensive, but the rate of return that you get far outweighs the increased cost. So it can be a very powerful tactic.
I mean, so really what you're saying on a lot of this is, you've got a great value in your offline data and the data you already have, and a lot of companies aren't leveraging that. Is that what you found, Yosha? Yeah, and Starla?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have, and it's not only CRM data. We find people leveraging their first-party website data, and there's some studies. It's old, but they're old compared to. It's not Q2 refresh, but just the increase in performance in Starla is absolutely right. It appears at first glance that you're paying more for it, but the improvements that we see in performance and conversion rates way outweigh the initial costs on it. It's because it's built off of real data, if you will, real people at the end of the day. And we find our customers also starting to use call center data or point-of-sale data that can go and influence online marketing or targeting as well. Those are all phenomenal, great data sources to leverage.
Mm-hmm. So when you're using this, and this is another question that we got from the audience, how do you best assure clients that their data is being kept private if CRM is being used for audience syndication?
I'll answer, and then I hope Starla, you will come and confirm. But Starla mentioned this actually. Is she used the word of safe haven? So we don't handle PII, if you will. So in a sense, CRM data files are hashed against email addresses or whatever using a hash key that the advertiser has, and then at the end of the day, we just see cookie IDs with attributes on them. And that is what we then use to go and get the information and can give you the insights on effectively the same way we would if you just blindly bought a takeover on Yahoo homepage. But we don't want to have them own or see any of the PII data. And in fact, that's a little bit of the advantage of using sort of a neutral analytics platform is as customers want to own their data and spend so much time in updating and keeping the CRM data, being able to own the insights gleaned from that and move with that as agencies or other things change, we believe is really a way to leverage all the hard work and the money spent on these marketing automation systems.
Great. Starla, we've got a question I think I want to toss your way here. And that is, if you can go back, I know you were talking, I think, about view-through metrics. Or was that, and I'm wondering if you can maybe define view-through, right, as opposed to click-through, and what's being meant by that, and maybe you can sort of go over, why we're sort of looking at such a higher rate, a higher return rate on those.
Yes, so click-through is exactly what it is. You're exposed to, let's say, a banner online. You click on that banner and you go to the defined destination that the banner directs an audience to, and then you measure conversions. A view-through conversion is where you've measured that you've exposed that cookie to an ad. They didn't immediately click on that ad, but they ended up on your website and transacted anyway. From our data, using view-through data, it really garners you the full effect, in my opinion, of your paid advertising. Not everyone's going to click. We've actually seen the same kind of data that view-through converters are actually more premium audiences. There's a lot of people out there who will tend to click on banners and they're not really quality customers or they're not really intending to buy. And so your quality lies within that view-through conversion. So you're really going with the precepts of advertising and media. You're driving exposure over a certain amount of time to drive awareness, understanding, purchase consideration, and then finally an action. So that's why view-through conversion can be very powerful, and also why you see search or click conversion is so small that you're able to really see the full power and benefit of your spend if you look at view-through.
And so how exactly do you measure the view-based conversion? Are you looking for full attribution through the funnel, or is this a singular type of thing?
So do we rate a view-through conversion at 100% weighted as high as a click?
Yeah, or I guess it's also even on an even more elementary level. How exactly do you measure that conversion? And how do you measure a view? A click, it's very obvious. You can tell when someone's clicked. You can follow them through once that action's taken. But a view, how do you actually measure the view?
Well, when you're go ahead,
Starla.
You can probably give a more eloquent discussion about tracking tags. But whenever you're exposed to a online or digital advertisement, a cookie is dropped onto your browser. So when you end up back on the site, your tracking tags recognize that cookie, and you're able to understand how they flowed through your site and ended up, and what actions they took as a result of that.
Right.
Yep, that's perfect. And that's part of what we can show is we can show both click and view through actions in the platform. And so we have, for example, and that's where on some of the cost metrics in the cost index, we do include CPA, but we also include CPM. And so you can really judge within the then, in the look back window, we can basically associate those activities or actions back to it, and you can optimize based on how you're buying that inventory and whether one channel performs better on a CPA or another channel performs better on CPM, because it has a huge influence from a view-through perspective. You
can also see through the Neustar tool set how cookies interface with multiple campaigns. So they might be exposed to campaign A, B, and then converted on C. So then you can really start to understand how all your messages and market weave together to drive action.
Great. I just want to remind the audience again, we've just got another few minutes here of the Q&A. So if there are any additional questions, if you do want to, again, submit them using the Q&A tool here. I just want to return maybe to this topic of lookalike modeling. And I think that one of the people here has a question just in terms of how is this a product that you get through ad networks and exchanges, or how exactly do you, once you sort of have created that lookalike, how do you actually execute it? And I think it's probably a good little plug here for Neustar, right?
So one of the
yeah, I was being quiet.
Yeah, the way you execute on it is that ultimately you go through building audiences. We overlay performance data on these attributes that Starla mentioned, and so it starts, imagine, from your CRM data file, and you basically know which attributes you would like to go and target, and you then go and see, you run campaigns, and you build an initial audience, you run campaigns against them, and in real time we can show you the performance on those attributes, and effectively you can continue to optimize those audiences and essentially build cookie pools that you can go and distribute to your chosen media partners. And if you will, that is the cycle of optimization that we work with Starla together, and she uses the platform to do, which is you start with the best data sources. You say, here are the attributes I would like to target off of that. I have these attributes that convert in this way or perform these actions on my website, and I want to go and target them. I go and I find them in the wild. I see how they perform. I create and refine the cookie pool set. I distribute that to my media partners. I see how they perform, and I just get better and better at it. Starla, would you like to? Did I capture that well?
I think that's perfect. Just one additional note. When Neustar comes in and talks to advertisers, they say something which really resonated with us here at Sprint and is really important, which is, and I think just driving it home a little bit, advertisers are sitting on a wealth of data, whether it be CRM data or even just conversion data on your platform, on your site. And being able to leverage this type of tool set in order to better understand how your buys work, what audiences are really responding to your message, and then being able to activate it against it is very powerful. It's allowed us to better understand how our campaigns work together, what partners are really performing, and what audiences are really the low-hanging fruit for us to go after. So
that's great. So, I'm actually I think it's about time that we're ready to wrap up now. I think we've hit most of the questions that seem to have come in here. I'm just looking one more. Oh, we've got time for one more. So I think I'm going to go just hit one last one, and then we'll finish up. And that is that, as someone's asking here about, top DSP providers, and maybe you could provide a few names for people. I don't know if you want to do recommendations or not. What is your thoughts on that one? Yosha, you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, DSPs that out there. I mean, there's obviously Rocket Fuel that is out there. TubeMogul. We have sort of. We don't. I mean, other than that, they all perform and do their job. I don't know that we usually recommend. We partner with all of them, so that sort of, I don't know if maybe Starla, I'd actually push it over to you if you've found some insights that you want to share.
So I won't necessarily recommend a DSP partner. I think the things you want to look at when choosing a DSP is certainly interface and inventory source. So we'll use multiple DSPs in our efforts, but what we want to do is ensure that we're not buying duplicative inventory sources. So we're buying unique audiences and unique reach, so we're not driving inadvertent frequency across our plans.
Right, and one of the things that we've, and I think it's come off of sort of, there was a belief we saw about a year and a half ago where advertisers thought that it was good to just work with one DSP, and I think that's maybe a little bit of a religious conversation. But what we have found is working with, and absolutely everything Starla said, but working with multiple DSPs across, whether you want to work with any of them. But the point of it is make sure that that you're measuring who they're reaching. Are they maximizing your reach, or are you really targeting the same user? And we found that working with a couple of them actually maximizes your reach and maximizes the users you want to reach through them. So that's one. But
you will need it. So from a religious perspective, and maybe Yosha, we could do this over a cocktail, but I was an advertiser who felt like without a DMP provider, that using one DSP was the safe route, because then you're not going to be able to see if you're driving frequency or reach across partners. Now with the DMP provider in place, we're able to really see that and move the buttons and levers around to maximize our spend. And I would agree now that being able to purchase multiple DSPs does really provide more impact and more ideal reach and frequency across your plan.
Without a doubt, and I didn't want to continue plugging Neustar, but I think that goes with, as you're buying on multiple DSPs, as you're buying portal inventory, as you're buying, you have sponsorship buys. It again depends on your media mix, but as you're trying to optimize the media mix, having an analytics layer that can help you optimize across all of those channels, which is what the indices sort of were touching on across portals and socials, exchanges, and ad networks. You do, I think, at the end of the day, you want to reach the right people, drive engagement, and increase sales, and that is the way you want to sort of optimize across.
Well, I think that's a great spot to sum up here, and I want to, again, Yosha and Starla, thank you both for your time. I think it's been a very compelling presentation, and again, I want to thank members of the audience for taking time out of your busy day to be here. We will be sending you a link to the on-demand version of this presentation, and if you're interested in seeing additional or being part of additional AdWeek webinars, you can check the Events tab on www.adweek.com. Again, thank you all, and we look forward to future presentations.